So, you sign into Microsoft 365 every day, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening behind the scenes? Behind that simple login box, there's this incredibly powerful engine making split-second security decisions. It's deciding whether you get in or you get blocked. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and unpack the logic of that engine, Microsoft's conditional access.
At its very core, a conditional access policy seems pretty simple. It's just an if-then statement. If you want to get to this file, then you have to do this action. But the real magic, the part that's actually keeping your organization safe, is what happens in that tiny little pause between the if and the then.
So what is going on in that gap? Let's try an analogy. Imagine every single sign-in attempt has to get past a digital security guard standing at a checkpoint. For the next few minutes, we're going to follow one user's sign-in and see exactly how this guard thinks, step by step.
Okay, so the very first thing our digital guard does is gather intel. Right? Before making any kind of decision, it needs context. This is the first phase of the whole evaluation, just collecting all the signals that are coming in with that signed-in request.
And our guard is, super thorough. It's asking a bunch of questions. Who are you? Are you part of the marketing team or the finance team? Where are you signing in from? Is this the trusted corporate network or a coffee shop halfway across the world? What are you using? Is it a company laptop or your personal phone? And maybe most importantly, what's your risk level right now? Does this whole thing look a little suspicious? All of these signals together create a complete picture of the situation.
So once the guard has all these details, it's time for phase 2. It pulls out a digital clipboard and starts checking that information against a list of rules. Now this clipboard, that's your policy's assignments, like who the rule is for, and its conditions, like what kind of device they have to be using. These are the very specific criteria that the sign-in has to match.
Now, I really want you to listen to this next part, because this is probably the most important rule of the whole thing. For a policy to even apply, every single one of those conditions on the clipboard has to be true. It's not this one or that one. No, it's this and that and that. If even one check fails, just one, the guard basically puts the clipboard away. This specific policy just doesn't apply, and it moves on.
And this is where you see the sheer power of exclusions. The best way to think about an excluded group is like a VIP list at a club. If your name is on that list, the guard just waves you right past this particular checkpoint. No questions asked. It literally does not matter if you match every other rule on the list. Being on that exclusion list is an immediate bypass for this one policy.
All right, so after checking all those signals against the rules, our guard is finally ready to make a verdict. This is the enforcement part of the policy. This is where it actually decides what to do.
And the verdict really comes down to two main outcomes. The first one is block. This is a hard stop. Access denied, the process ends right here, right now. The second outcome is grant. Now this means you're allowed in, but often with a condition attached. We call this a grant control. It's like a final challenge you have to complete to prove you are who you say you are.
Now here's what's cool. If a policy grants you access but needs multiple controls, it doesn't just throw everything at you at once. There's a very specific order of operations. The system is always going to ask for the strongest protections first. It might start with multi-factor authentication, MFA. That's the prompt on your phone. Then it might check if your device is compliant, making sure it meets all the company's security standards. It just goes right down this list, one by one, until every requirement of that policy is satisfied.
And here's where things can get a little complex. A single sign-in can trigger multiple policies all at the same time. It's like having to go through several different security checkpoints to get to your gate at the airport. And the crucial thing to remember is you have to satisfy the rules of every single one. If the first checkpoint wants MFA and the second one needs a compliant device, guess what? You've got to provide both to get through. Okay, so with all this complex logic, the ands, the exclusions, the multiple policies, you're probably thinking, man, it sounds really easy to mess this up and accidentally lock everybody out. And you'd be right. Thankfully, there's a built-in safety net for testing your policies before you flip the switch. This amazing safety net is called report-only mode, and honestly, it's going to be your best friend when you're creating new policies. What it does is it lets the policy run through the entire evaluation logic. The guard gathers all the signals, checks all the rules, and even reaches a verdict, but it never actually enforces the outcome. Instead, the guard just kind of watches, takes notes, and logs what would have happened. It is the absolute perfect way to test a policy's real-world impact, totally risk-free. So, if we boil this entire process down to one sentence, this is the thought process of conditional access. It checks who is signing in, with what device, from where, and with what level of risk. And only after it has all of that intelligence does it finally decide how it's going to grant or block access.
Look, understanding this logic is the key. It's a real game changer. It takes you from just, creating rules to actually designing a security strategy. This entire process we just walked through, it's the absolute foundation of a modern approach we call zero trust, where every single sign-in is an opportunity to verify. So the final question isn't just, what rules should I make? It's, now that I know how it thinks, how am I going to use this powerful logic to build my zero trust security architecture?